My parent refuses to work and expects me to care for them in their old age. I am not really that well off financially. I live in a one-bedroom basement suite with my husband. We both work, but do not make much money as neither of us were able to get degrees. We never had any financial assistance from our families, and were not willing to go into debt for school. The cost of living where we live is also extremely high. My husband and I are able to pay for our living expenses but do not have much extra after that. My mother barely worked when I was a child and ended up having to file for bankruptcy, losing our home and our car. I had to move in with my grandmother who lived in Canada for my last 2 years of high school, so I could complete high school. I previously lived in the United States with my mother. My parents divorced when I was 4, but my father is not really in the picture. I know who he is, but he has never been involved in my life. My mother still lives in the United States as she never moved here. When I lived with my mother, she made me do pretty much everything for her, including cooking, cleaning, and helping her get ready. She was also always flipping out emotionally, screaming and crying. I was barely ever at school on time or anything I was required to attend because of her emotional freakouts. I was really depressed in my childhood because of this. My mother remarried when I was 18. She and her new husband created a Christian organization where they get all their expenses paid for. My mother's husband does preaching, and they offer some community events. My mother and her husband do not work other than the volunteer work they do for the Christian organization. Both my mother and her current husband expect my husband and me to care for them in their old age. They want to move in with us and have us foot all the medical bills and their cost of living. We cannot afford this financially, nor would it be good for our emotional health because of her constant emotional freakouts. When my mother comes to visit, it is difficult because she expects us to constantly take her out to dinner, which we cannot afford. She refuses to do anything else other than go out to dinner. I cannot have her in my home in case she emotionally freaks out. I cannot risk my living situation. She stays with a friend of hers while she is here. Despite all this, I do love her as she is my mother, but I have no idea what to do in this situation. Any advice is appreciated. TL Doctor. My mother and her husband expect my husband and me to have them move in with us and pay for their medical expenses and living costs in old age. They do not work, and my mother has barely worked in 30 years. My husband and I can only afford our own expenses. My mother also constantly has emotional freakouts, so it would be bad for our mental health as well. What do we do? Make it clear you are not their retirement plan every single time they bring it up. Yes, the first few times will be explosive messes, but stick to your boundaries. Block them on your phone if needed and go low contact. They will eventually make other plans or not, and end up on SSI disability like most older folks. Ex-spouse isn't accepting that I've moved on, and I'm not sure how else to make it clear to them that I'm not going back. My ex-husband and I had been together for nearly 9 years and married for nearly 2. After we married, things were good until last year when his behavior rapidly changed. He became narcissistic and coercive, treated me like his mother, controlled my finances, and dictated which friends and family I could see. He used my past traumas as excuses for my outbursts, called me crazy, questioned if I had taken my medication, and used my poor mental health against me. He flip-flopped between being nice and nasty, engaged in emotional blackmail, and manipulated me. He also started abusing my hearing dog, a service dog for deaf people, by shouting at him and forcing him to stay on his bed at all times. This detrimental treatment affected the dog's mental health, and he stopped alerting me altogether. The dog couldn't simply exist without my ex getting angry. I sought help from a domestic abuse charity that works with the deaf community, as I am profoundly deaf, and I managed to gather the courage to leave for good in March this year. I currently live with my mother, who lives a 45-minute drive away. I've been keeping limited contact with my ex-husband in case I need to retrieve items from the house, which he is still living in. It is a shared ownership property, and both of our names are on the deed. I keep telling him it's not going to work out if he still believes I'm overreacting, am crazy, and that he is not in the wrong. I receive messages from him where he swings between saying he loves me, he's sorry, and wants to change, to blaming my past traumas for why I'm telling him this, and stating that I'm not the real me anymore. I've recently started seeing someone else since I struggle with single life and feel incredibly alone even when surrounded by my nearest and dearest. I mentioned this to my ex, but he thinks I'm lying or that it's a friends with benefit situation and believes I'll come back eventually. I've told him he needs to either buy me out of my half of the deed or sell the house entirely and give me half of the equity, but he ignores this. I can't afford legal advice as I am literally living paycheck to paycheck. He wants me to still pay the house bills, which I am not doing, and I just feel stuck. Stop communication with him and block him. Your only obligation is to discuss the house, and a lawyer can assist with that. Your stuff being there and constant chatting just give him an excuse to stay in contact. Focus on yourself and your new relationship. Don't let anything distract you from what needs to be done right now. You deserve happiness, so make sure to tighten up your spending and save up for a legal consultation to handle the divorce and house sale. My therapist asked me to ask my girlfriend if she would join a session. My name is MV. I am a 29-year-old male, and I have been dating my girlfriend, who is a 31-year-old female, for about a year. We were friends for 2 years prior. Our relationship is great, but we keep arguing about one issue. My girlfriend tends to be a people pleaser and has friends who take advantage of her. She complains about it, but whenever I try to defend her or tell her she does not have to put up with it, She seems to be annoyed at me for rocking the boat. These issues have caused some of our biggest fights. I go to therapy, and recently our fights have become a major topic in my sessions. My therapist suggested I bring my girlfriend to a session. I told her I would give it some thought. She said that if I brought my girlfriend, we could either have a couples therapy session or she could get 20 minutes alone with her to get an idea about things. She assured me that she would not tell my girlfriend anything I had said in the past and would just act unaware. I have not brought this up to my girlfriend. I do think therapy would help her a lot, but my girlfriend does not love to self-reflect. One time, I was reading a self-help book and I asked if she would be interested in reading it. She said she would after I finished it. Once I finished it, she did the quiz on the first page and got mad because the book said she was a people pleaser, which is something she acknowledges, and has not touched the book since. So, I am not even sure how she will feel about therapy. From some of my stories, my therapist wonders if she runs away when she feels her flaws are brought up and challenged by someone else. How do I bring this up to her? I am not going to force her to do it, obviously, but I think it could be good for us because this fight pops up every month or two, and it is getting past a certain point. Has anyone here been given the same request? Did you feel like it helped your relationship? If you have done couples therapy, did it help? TL Doctor. My therapist asked me to bring my girlfriend after we have been fighting over the same thing for months. It revolves around my girlfriend people-pleasing her friends who take advantage and getting mad at me when I try to defend her or acting like I am overreacting. It seems that if your girlfriend isn't willing to set boundaries or stop being a people-pleaser, therapy might not be the best route for her. Instead, you might consider working on ways to care less about her people-pleasing habits. Also, it's not ideal to bring her into sessions with your current therapist, as they might not be objective enough. If you both decide on couples therapy, finding a neutral therapist whom neither of you has seen before would be more productive. BF slapped me during an argument. How do I be strong enough to leave and move on? My boyfriend and I were watching a movie, and he got an erection during a nude scene where a man was groping a woman's bare breast from behind. It was pretty explicit. I could feel him getting harder, and I just looked at him and said, "Seriously?" I felt a bit uncomfortable about it, but I still asked him to watch the movie. He got mad, threw the AirPods, and told me to watch it alone. After a few minutes, I asked him to watch it together, but he denied and went to bed. The next morning, he did not talk to me at all. I could see that he was mad. I did not want to confront him or talk with him regarding that matter. In fact, I was scared to. Every time I try to talk to him about something that bothers me or just about our arguments, he gets extremely aggressive and violent. He does not let me speak, and if I do, he just does not listen or understand. He did not speak to me properly the whole day. When evening came, I could not take it anymore, so I just asked him if he was mad at me. I mentioned it, and like always, he started getting aggressive, swearing, and just kept on talking. I tried telling him that, even though it was completely normal, it made me uncomfortable, but he was the one who acted that way. During the course of that talk, which he turned into an argument after I begged him to communicate calmly, he punched my legs, shoved his tablet against my lips, and slapped me in the face. How was I supposed to act at that moment? Am I not allowed to be upset or uncomfortable, even though it was completely normal? Am I not allowed to show it? He makes me feel that way. In the past, I would keep trying to make him understand a little bit of how I feel, which would always end up in arguments. I do not know why. He would tell me that I talk a lot and so on. But now, I have kind of just let it be. I know that he will never understand a word of what I say. I will always be the selfish and argumentative one. He always blames me for every argument we have, and at this point I know I will always be at fault. As long as I brush everything off and not get upset about anything, we are fine. He makes me so confused and guilty, and I just do not know anymore. I know so clearly that I have the right to be upset at times, but bringing it up to him, us arguing badly, and him blaming and making sure that I know it is me who is at fault is making me question reality at this point. I am just scared to say anything because I know where that would lead us. He has also not been the best boyfriend. He has broken my trust many times, lied to me, and was not there for me when I lost my father. He did something worse when I was going through a lot during those times. His actions are much worse than what I am describing here. He has made me extremely sensitive and has physically and verbally abused me many times. He tells me that I provoke him and that it is the consequence. I struggle with severe anxiety attacks, and arguments with him worsen them. He would still shout and swear at me, call me degrading names when I am literally crying and having anxiety attacks. I had even started to self-harm. The reason I have become this way is also because of his actions. The saddest and hardest thing is that I know I should leave, but I just cannot. He is my first boyfriend, which makes it so much harder. Breaking up with him is crucial for your safety above all else. Imagine dealing with that kind of immaturity every time you have a disagreement for the rest of your life. Call a friend or family member, explain the situation, and ask for their help to leave. Block him everywhere and never talk to him again. You'll start to feel so much better once you're out of that toxic environment. I think my father-in-law has been watching us from our pet security cam, and he denies it. What do? My husband and I live in an apartment and we have a cat. To keep an eye on our cat when we are away and also for security, we have a couple of pet cameras in our place, one in the living room and one in the bedroom. A few days ago, my husband was away on a business trip and I was in my room. I saw the light from the camera that turns on when someone is watching. When I looked at it again, it went away. I thought it was my husband because we sometimes check on each other or check the camera for fun. So, I texted him naughty. I am okay with him checking the camera when I am there and when he is away. A couple of hours later, he texted me back and said he had no idea what I was talking about. I thought that I just saw it wrong or saw a reflection. Later that night, I got out of the shower and was drying myself in the room. I saw the light again. I called my husband to ask if he was watching me, and he wasn't. I got scared. So I looked up if there was a way to see who was watching. I found out that I can check what devices are logged in or have access to the cameras. When I checked it, it was my father-in-law's phone. I remembered that he was here a few months ago when we went away for a vacation to look after the cat. I helped him get connected to the app so he could use the camera too when he was away. When we came back, I asked him if he could log out from the app now, and he said he did. But it showed that he was still logged in on his phone. I told my husband everything, and my husband called his father to confront him. The father-in-law said that he wasn't watching me or using the camera. He thought he had logged out that time and he doesn't even have the app anymore. He also said that he was a little offended and upset that we were accusing him. He said it might have been some kind of glitch or bug. What was more suspicious is that after that call, his device went away from the device list. I feel so violated as there were many times I was changing or doing other stuff in front of the cameras. I saw the light on and I just assumed it was my husband. To be fair, a lot of times it was my husband, but I didn't check every time because I automatically assumed that it was him since I thought we were the only ones with access. It creeps me out to think that he could have been watching even when my husband and I were getting intimate. I don't know what to do now because my husband is saying his dad is not the type to do such a thing. He trusts him and thinks it probably was a glitch. I know now it's not showing and we logged out, restarted and everything. So there isn't a way for him to access them again. But I still feel so violated and embarrassed. I don't know what to do because I have no way to prove that he was watching, even if he had access accidentally. What do I do? Confront him again? My father-in-law has always been a crude type, and this made me rethink all the previous interactions with him and wonder if he was watching us. A couple of weeks ago, we were having dinner with another relative. They asked when we were planning to have kids. We said we didn't know yet, but my father-in-law made a joke saying, "Considering how they are doing it like rabbits, it should be soon." I thought that was just a crude joke, but now I'm wondering if he has been watching and made that joke based on that. I don't know how to proceed. It sounds like there's been some shady behavior with the cameras, so it's definitely worth checking the logs to see who accessed them and when. Changing the password immediately is also a good idea, and make sure to update it every time your father-in-law leaves after watching your pets. Unplug the cameras when you're home to avoid any unnecessary risks, as many of these devices have security flaws. Lastly, don't let your father-in-law's crude humor slide. Confront him directly and make it clear that his comments are inappropriate. I love my fiancé, but I'm not sure if he is the right person for me. What do I do? Hello everyone, I am a 22-year-old female in a 15-month relationship with my fiancé, who is a 23-year-old male. He proposed this January. We love each other dearly, but I sometimes fear where our relationship is going because I am not 100% sure he is the right person for me. He treats me like a queen, spends all his money on me at the cost of his own comfort, regularly gives me expensive gifts, and showers me with compliments, attention, and love every day. I truly love him for that, but there are a few things that sit at the back of my mind and keep bothering me. I come from a good and well-off family and grew up very spoiled and loved. He, on the other hand, practically grew up on his own, unloved and uncared for. His mother has had 2 divorces, and financially his family is not as well off as mine. The difference shows in our houses, cars, clothes, and past experiences. For example, I traveled around the world as a child, and he has only visited 3 foreign countries in his life. Although we are both considered upper middle class in our country, our standard of living is significantly above the average. There is a lot of trauma in him because he was abandoned by both his biological father and stepfather. I do not have any family-related traumas, and it is often hard for me to relate and support him in times of need. Although I do it anyway, I just feel very drained afterward. Our interests and mentalities are also quite different. I love reading books, playing different musical instruments, and learning foreign languages. His interests are completely different. He is more into sports, is good at physical labor, is used to fixing things around the house, and enjoys driving. I am more into intellectually stimulating activities, and he is very practical and grounded. I really dislike always being the one to entertain him with different interesting tales and stories or sharing the news. I am a great listener and love learning new things from people, but I sometimes do not find myself as amused or impressed by what my fiancé has to tell me compared to some of my male friends and colleagues. That being said, I do not find him stupid in the slightest. He is actually very smart and graduated with honors, like I did. It's just that many of our interests do not align. After we graduated, I landed a position in an extremely prestigious international firm. He started working at a very promising government job with great career potential. I was very proud of him, and his work in that sphere made me respect him a lot. However, our relationship had to go long distance because his job required him to move to a different city. Around that time, I decided I would say yes to his proposal. We introduced each other to our families and started planning our future. A few months later, he decided to quit his job primarily because it was very hard for him to do long distance, and he could not bear not seeing me every day. I tried to change his mind but failed. Now he is working a different job that I honestly absolutely despise. He basically plays video games for a living. His new job actually pays much better than his previous one, and he earns more than I do, but the prestige is not there. I do not even know how to tell my parents or friends about what he does, especially when I work in a very regarded company. Do I just tell everyone that my soon-to-be husband is a gamer? I really do not mean to sound condescending, but it is seriously eating me up inside. Such a stark difference in our jobs just further highlights the difference in our interests. Our ambitions and vision for the future are also not the same. He says he will be the happiest man in the world when we become a family and have kids. He is happy every day simply because we are together, and financial success or money does not define happiness for him at all. Although I am okay with temporary financial struggles, I want him to always strive for success and not want to settle for less. But I also do not want him to burn himself out doing something he hates. So I feel conflicted, which is why I did not push or make him stay at his previous job, although I really wanted him to. There are other issues in our relationship, such as extreme jealousy and control from his side and him being very obsessive and possessive about me. He also wants to see me every day and be in touch 24/7, which sometimes gets exhausting. Once, when I tried breaking up with him, he said he did not want to live a life without me and even threatened to kill himself. Admittedly, I too am not a saint, and I know I can be manipulative, jealous, and overly demanding at times. So our relationship can be super toxic sometimes. Interestingly, he was never like this in his previous relationships. Also, his being this invested in us and losing his former self because of our relationship made his mother and sisters dislike me pretty badly. But the good aspects outweigh the bad ones most of the time, and they make it hard for me to leave him and end this relationship. He showed me what a man in love is capable of. He gives me the most amazing princess treatment ever, is a real gentleman, supports me in every way he can, pays for everything, and sends flowers almost weekly. Even when he has no money himself, he just sells his things and eats fast food so he can keep affording to buy gifts for me and take me to expensive restaurants. Our sex life is also fantastic. He is an incredible and attentive lover and is also super horny for me, which I love. Sometimes when we are together for the whole day, we can go up to 8 rounds, and how he makes me feel is heaven. So no complaints here. He is also tall and handsome and is very much my type physically. All in all, I love him very much. And I understand that in many ways, I am very lucky to have an amazing and loving man like him. I appreciate everything he does for our relationship. I feel very much loved and desired when I am with him. But I am afraid that the issues I described make us fundamentally incompatible and can be classified as deal breakers. I know that if we break up, my heart will be broken and I do not want to lose him. But I am also very afraid to choose the wrong partner for life. What do you think? Are my feelings valid, or are my expectations too high? There is absolutely no need to marry anyone you've only known for 15 months and are now in a long-distance relationship with. Slow down and spend actual time with this person to see if you are compatible. Have some real conversations about kids, money, and life goals, instead of assuming they're the one just because they look like your ideal partner. Honestly, it sounds like both might be too immature to get married right now. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.